Black twin sisters confront racism on a plane, revealing a game-changing secret. Hit like and subscribe to witness their inspiring fight in our latest video, and stay for more. The business class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 219 was a haven of luxury at 35,000 feet. Its plush leather seats arranged in private pods. The air filled with the soft hum of the jet engines and the faint clink of champagne glasses. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat side by side in seats 2A and 2B, their identical faces alight with excitement. Their matching navy travel outfits, stylish sweaters and jeans, perfectly coordinated, their long braided hair cascading over their shoulders. Their deep brown eyes sparkling with anticipation, their hands clutching their boarding passes. Amara and Aisha were 15-year-old twin sisters of African descent. Their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives, their shared passion for travel and adventure, a bond that had carried them through countless experiences. They were on their way to New York for a school trip, a reward for their academic excellence. But at Skylux Airlines, their presence in business class would soon make them targets. The airline was known for its elite service, but its clientele, mostly white and affluent, often carried the prejudices of their privileged worlds. Amara and Aisha were among the few black passengers in the cabin, a fact that made them stand out in a space where they were already a rarity. As they settled into their seats, a woman in her late 50s, dressed in a tailored cream blazer and pearl earrings, took the seat across the aisle in 2D, her sharp blue eyes narrowing as she glanced at the twins. Her name was Karen Whitmore, a frequent flyer with a reputation for entitlement. Her lips pursed in disapproval, her voice a low mutter as she spoke to the man beside her. "Look at them," she said, her tone sharp. "They don't belong here, probably used someone else's miles." Amara's heart sank, her hands tightening around her boarding pass. She exchanged a glance with Aisha, their twin connection speaking volumes. "Did she just say that?" Amara whispered, her voice low. Aisha nodded, her tone steady. "Ignore her," she replied. "We're here, and we deserve to be." The twins tried to focus on their excitement, flipping through the in-flight magazine, but Karen's voice grew louder, her tone sharp. "I paid for business class to avoid people like them," she said, her words cutting through the cabin. The other passengers glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "They're just kids," a man in a suit murmured. "She's being ridiculous," his companion replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Karen's words, their joy dimming under her prejudice. The cabin was their dream space, a place where they longed to enjoy the luxury they'd earned. But even here, they weren't safe. Karen's disdain grew bolder, her actions escalating as the flight attendants began their pre-flight checks. She waved over the lead attendant, a woman named Linda with a tight bun and a forced smile. "Excuse me," Karen said, her voice sharp. "I need to speak with you about these passengers." Linda approached, her eyes flickering to Amara and Aisha, her smile faltering. "Yes, ma'am," she said, her tone overly polite. Karen's voice was sharp. "I don't think they belong in business class," she said. "They're clearly in the wrong cabin. Check their tickets. I don't want them here." Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling. "We have tickets," she said, her voice steady despite the rising panic. "We're supposed to be here." Aisha pulled out her boarding pass, holding it up. "See," she said, her tone firm. "We're in the right seats." Linda took the passes, her eyes narrowing as she examined them, her tone sharp. "I'll need to verify this," she said, her voice laced with skepticism. The other passengers continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "They're just kids," a woman in a silk scarf murmured. "This is getting out of hand," her friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Linda's suspicion, their dream of a luxurious flight now tainted by prejudice. The cabin was a place where they longed to feel welcomed, But now it was a battleground. Karen's group, her and Linda, grew bolder, their actions escalating as Linda returned, her tone sharp. "I need to speak with my supervisor," she said. "There might be a mistake with your seats." Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling. "There's no mistake," she said, her voice breaking with frustration. "We paid for these seats." Aisha's voice was firm. "You can't just move us because she doesn't like us," she said, pointing at Karen, who smirked, her voice sharp. "This is business class, not a charity flight," she said, her tone mocking. "You don't belong here." The tension in the cabin was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Karen's malice. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced, their minds racing. They didn't know how much longer they could endure this, how much more they could take. But they knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push them to their breaking point, a moment that would test their strength, their truth, their very identity. Wow, the business class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 217 was a cocoon of tension as the jet taxied toward the runway, its plush leather seats and ambient lighting overshadowed by the growing unease. The air filled with the soft hum of pre-flight announcements and the faint clink of glassware being stowed. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat in their assigned seats, 2A and 2B, their identical faces etched with a mix of defiance and discomfort. Their matching Navy travel outfits, cozy sweaters and jeans, now feeling like a spotlight, their long braided hair cascading down their backs, their deep brown eyes darting nervously between each other, their hands clutching their boarding passes as if they were lifelines. Amara and Aisha were 15-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their shared excitement for their trip to New York, a school reward for their academic excellence, now tainted by the hostility around them. The cabin was a luxurious space, but it's mostly white. Affluent passengers carried prejudices that made the twins feel like intruders as they adjusted their seatbelts. Karen Whitmore, the white woman in seat 2D, across the aisle, continued her verbal assault, her sharp blue eyes narrowing with disdain. Her cream blazer and pearl earrings a stark contrast to her venomous words. "I can't believe they let people like them in here," she said, her voice sharp, her tone loud enough for the twins to hear. "This is business class, not a charity flight." Amara's heart sank, her hands trembling as she gripped her boarding pass. She whispered to Aisha, "She's not stopping." Her voice low. Aisha's jaw tightened, her tone steady. "We can't let her get to us," she replied. "We belong here." But Karen's words cut deeper, her tone mocking. "They probably used someone else's miles, or worse, stole them," she said, turning to the man beside her, a businessman in a pinstripe suit who nodded uncomfortably. The other passengers glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "She's being so loud," a woman in a silk blouse murmured. "Those girls aren't bothering anyone," her companion replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Karen's prejudice, their joy dimming under her scorn. The cabin was their dream space, a place where they longed to enjoy the luxury they'd earned. But now it was a battleground. Karen's hostility grew bolder, her actions escalating as she waved over the lead flight attendant, Linda, who had already shown signs of bias. Linda approached, her tight bun and forced smile masking a flicker of irritation. "Yes, ma'am," she said, her tone overly polite. Karen's voice was sharp. "I've already told you, these girls don't belong here," she said, pointing at Amara and Aisha. "They're making me uncomfortable. I want their tickets checked again, and I want them moved to economy." Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling. "We've already shown you our tickets," she said, her voice steady despite the rising panic. "We're in the right seats." Aisha held up her boarding pass, her tone firm. "This is our cabin. We paid for these seats," she said. "You can't just move us because she doesn't like us." Linda's eyes narrowed, her tone sharp. "I'll check again," she said, her voice laced with skepticism. There might be a mix-up. We don't usually have passengers like you in business class. The twins' hearts sank, their hands trembling, the implication of Linda's words hitting them like a slap. Passengers like us, Amara said, her voice breaking with frustration. What does that even mean? Aisha's voice was firm. It means they don't think we belong here because of our skin, she said, her tone sharp. But we do, and we're not moving. The other passengers continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. This is getting ugly, a man in a polo shirt murmured. They're just kids, his friend replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Linda's bias, their dream flight now a nightmare of prejudice. The cabin was a place where they longed to feel welcomed, but now it was a stage of confrontation. Karen's group, her and Linda, grew bolder, their actions escalating as Linda returned with a tablet, her tone sharp. I've checked the manifest, she said. Your tickets are valid, but I'm still going to speak with the captain. There might be other arrangements we can make. Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling. Other arrangements? She said, her voice breaking. You mean you're going to move us because she's complaining? Aisha's voice was firm. That's not fair, she said. We have every right to be here. You can't do this. Karen smirked, her voice sharp. It's not about fairness, she said, her tone mocking. It's about who belongs here. And you don't. The group of passengers who agreed with Karen nodded, their voices a low murmur of support. She's right, a woman in pearls said, her tone sharp. This cabin isn't for everyone. The other passengers continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. They're escalating this for no reason, a man in a suit murmured. Those girls aren't doing anything wrong, his friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of the collective prejudice. Their dream of a luxurious flight, now a battle for dignity. The tension in the cabin was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Karen's malice. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced, their minds racing. They didn't know how much longer they could endure this, how much more they could take. But they knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push them to their breaking point, a moment that would test their strength, their truth, their very identity. The business class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 217 was a pressure cooker of tension as the jet sat on the tarmac, its engines idling, the air filled with the soft hum of the air conditioning and the sharp undercurrent of whispered conversations. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat in their seats, 2A and 2B, their identical faces a mirror of frustration and resolve. Their matching Navy travel outfits, cozy sweaters and jeans, now feeling like armor, their long braided hair neatly arranged. Their deep brown eyes flickering with the mix of defiance and hurt, their hands gripping the armrests as if bracing for a storm. Amara and Aisha were 15-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their excitement for their trip to New York, a school reward for their academic excellence, now overshadowed by the hostility around them. The cabin was a luxurious space, but it's mostly white. Affluent passengers carried prejudices that made the twins feel like intruders. Karen Whitmore, the white woman in seat 2D, had already made her disdain clear, and now the lead flight attendant, Linda, was amplifying the conflict. Linda stood in the aisle near the twins, her tight bun and forced smile barely masking her irritation, her tablet in hand as she spoke with an air of authority. I've spoken with my supervisor, she said, her voice sharp, her tone dripping with skepticism. We're still reviewing your seating assignment. There's a possibility we'll need to relocate you to economy. Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling. Relocate us, she said, her voice breaking with frustration. We've already shown you our tickets. They're valid. You can't just move us. Aisha's voice was firm, her tone unwavering. This isn't about a mix-up, she said. This is about her. She pointed at Karen. She doesn't want us here because we're black. And you're helping her. Karen smirked, her sharp blue eyes glinting with malice. It's not about race, she said, her tone mocking. It's about standards. Business class isn't for everyone, and you two clearly don't belong. The other passengers glanced over, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. That's blatant racism, a woman in a floral dress murmured. They're just kids, her companion replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Karen's words. Their dream flight now a battleground of prejudice. The cabin was a place where they longed to feel welcomed, but now it was a stage of escalating conflict. Linda's actions grew bolder, her bias becoming more apparent as she leaned closer to the twins, her tone sharp. I need you to gather your belongings, she said. We're going to sort this out, and if necessary, you'll be moved. It's for the comfort of all passengers. Amar's heart raced, her hands trembling. The comfort of all passengers, she said, her voice rising. You mean her comfort. We're not doing anything wrong. Aisha's voice was firm. You're discriminating against us. She said, this isn't fair, and you know it. Linda's eyes narrowed, her tone sharp. I'm following protocol, she said. If you don't cooperate, I'll have to involve security. The threat hung heavy in the air. The other passengers continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. They're going too far. A man in a polo shirt murmured. Those girls aren't causing trouble, his friend replied. But no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of Linda's authority, their dream of a luxurious flight now a nightmare of injustice. Karen's group, her and Linda, grew bolder, their actions escalating as Karen chimed in, her voice sharp. See, they're causing a scene, she said, her tone mocking. They don't belong here, get them out. Amar's heart raced, her hands trembling. We're not causing a scene, she said, her voice breaking. You are. You're the one who started this. Aisha's voice was firm. We have every right to be here, she said. You can't just kick us out because you don't like us. Linda's tone was sharp. I've made my decision, she said. You'll need to move. Now. She reached for the twins' bags, her hands moving to grab their belongings. Amar's heart raced, her hands trembling. Don't touch our stuff, she said, her voice rising. This isn't right. Aisha pulled her bag away, her tone firm. We're not going anywhere, she said. You're breaking the rules, not us. The other passengers continued to whisper, their voices a mix of curiosity and discomfort. This is getting out of hand. A woman in a silk scarf murmured, They should call the captain. Her friend replied, but no one intervened, their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of the collective prejudice, their dream flight now a battle for their dignity. The tension in the cabin was palpable, the air thick with the weight of Karen's malice and Linda's bias. The twins' hearts raced, their minds racing. They didn't know how much longer they could endure this, how much more they could take. But they knew they had to fight back. Amara reached for her phone, her hands trembling. We're not letting this happen, she said, her voice steady. We need to call someone. Aisha nodded, her tone firm. Do it, she said, we're not moving. Amara dialed a number, her heart racing as the line rang, the cabin watching in tense silence. The call connected, and a deep, authoritative voice answered. Amara, Aisha, what's going on? Amara's voice was steady. Dad, we need your help, she said. They're trying to kick us out of business class. They're discriminating against us. The voice on the other end was sharp. Stay where you are, it said. I'll handle this. The tension in the cabin reached a boiling point, the air thick with the weight of what was to come. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced, their minds racing. They didn't know how this would end, but they knew a moment of reckoning was coming, a moment that would push them to their breaking point, a moment that would test their strength, their truth, their very identity. The business class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 217 was a storm of tension on the tarmac at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport. The soft hum of the jet engines drowned out by the rising voices of confrontation, the air thick with the scent of recycled air, and the sharp undercurrent of whispered unease. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat defiantly in their seats, 2A and 2B, their identical faces a mirror of resolute defiance. Their matching Navy travel outfits, cozy sweaters, and jeans, now a symbol of their unyielding stance, their long braided hair neatly arranged, their deep brown eyes blazing with determination, their hands gripping their armrests as they faced down the escalating hostility. Amara was on the phone, her voice steady but urgent. "Dad, they're trying to kick us out of business class. They're discriminating against us," she said, her tone sharp. Aisha sat beside her. Her gaze locked on the lead flight attendant, Linda, who stood in the aisle with a tablet, her tight bun and forced smile barely masking her irritation. Across the aisle, Karen Whitmore, the white woman in seat 2D, smirked with smug satisfaction, her sharp blue eyes glinting with malice. Her cream blazer and pearl earrings a stark contrast to her venomous demeanor. "I told you they don't belong here," Karen said, her voice sharp, her tone mocking. Amara and Aisha were 15-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives, their dream of a luxurious flight to New York, a school reward for their academic excellence, now a battleground of prejudice. The cabin was a luxurious space, but the hostility from Karen and Linda had turned it into a war zone. The other passengers watched in tense silence, their whispers a mix of curiosity and discomfort. "This is ridiculous," a man in a suit murmured. "They're just kids," his companion replied, but no one intervened. Their silence a weight on the twins' shoulders. They felt the sting of the collective prejudice. Their dream flight, now a fight for dignity. Linda's voice was sharp. "I've made my decision," she said, her tone authoritative. "You need to move to economy now." She reached for the twins' bags, her hands moving to grab their belongings. Amara's heart raced, her hands trembling as she pulled her bag away. "Don't touch our stuff," she said, her voice rising. "We're not going anywhere." Aisha's tone was firm. "You're breaking the rules," she said. "We have every right to be here." The tension had been building for 30 minutes, a relentless barrage of insults from Karen and biased actions from Linda, who had repeatedly questioned the validity of their tickets. The call Amara made was their last resort. The voice on the other end of the line, deep, authoritative, and unmistakably powerful, responded with a chilling calm. "Stay where you are," it said. "I'll handle this." Amara ended the call, her heart racing. "He's taking care of it," she whispered to Aisha, her tone steady. Aisha nodded, her eyes never leaving Linda. "Good," she said, her voice firm. The cabin fell into an uneasy silence, the passengers sensing a shift. Linda's expression faltered, her tone sharp. "Who did you call?" she said, her voice laced with suspicion. "This doesn't change anything. You're still moving." Karen smirked, her voice sharp. "They're bluffing," she said, her tone mocking. "No one's coming to save them. They don't belong here." But the atmosphere shifted abruptly as the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his tone grave, "we are experiencing a delay. Please remain seated while we address an urgent matter." The passengers murmured, their voices a mix of confusion and curiosity. "What's going on?" a woman in a silk scarf whispered. "This isn't normal," her companion replied. Within minutes, the cabin door opened, and a team of airline officials in suits boarded the plane, their expressions stern. Leading the group was a man in his late 40s, his dark skin and commanding presence unmistakable. His tailored suit a symbol of authority. His deep brown eyes, identical to those of Amara and Aisha, scanning the cabin with a mix of fury and resolve. It was Marcus Johnson, The CEO and founder of Skylux Airlines, the twins' father. The passengers gasped, their voices a mix of shock and awe. "That's Marcus Johnson!" A man in a polo shirt whispered. "The CEO," his friend replied. Marcus's voice was sharp. "I'm Marcus Johnson, he said, and I've been informed of a serious issue on this flight." His eyes locked on Linda, then Karen. "This plane isn't moving until it's resolved." Linda's face paled, her hands trembling. "Mr. Johnson," she stammered, her voice shaky. There was a seating issue. I was handling it." Marcus's tone was icy. "A seating issue?" he said. "My daughters, Amara and Aisha, have been subjected to discrimination by you and this passenger." He pointed at Karen, whose smirk vanished, her face turning ashen. "I've heard the recordings," Marcus continued. "Skylux does not tolerate racism. Effective immediately. You're fired, Linda." The cabin gasped, their voices a mix of shock and approval. "She's out," a woman in a floral dress whispered. "About time," her companion replied. Linda's hands trembled, her voice desperate. But I was following protocol," she said, her tone breaking. Marcus's voice was unyielding. "Your protocol was prejudice," he said. "You're done. Security will escort you off." Two uniformed officers stepped forward, their expressions stern. "Let's go," one said. Linda's shoulders slumped, her hands trembling as she was led away, her career in tatters. Marcus turned to Karen, his voice sharp. "And you, he said, your behavior is unacceptable. You're banned from Skylux Airlines, effective immediately. Security will escort you off as well." Karen's face turned red, her hands trembling. "You can't do this," she shouted, her voice desperate. "I'm a loyal customer." Marcus's tone was firm. "Not anymore," they said. "We don't serve racists. Get off my plane." The officers stepped forward, their voices firm. "Ma'am, let's go," they said. Karen's hands trembled as she was led away, her protests fading into the distance. Marcus turned to the remaining crew, his voice sharp. "The entire flight crew is being replaced," he said. "We'll have a new team in 20 minutes. This flight will not proceed until I'm satisfied with the service." The passengers murmured, their voices a mix of shock and admiration. "He's not playing around," a man in a suit said. "Good for him," his friend replied. Marcus walked to Amara and Aisha, his expression softening. "I'm so sorry. Girls," he said, his voice warm. "You should never have gone through this." Amara's eyes glistened, her hands trembling. "Thank you, Dad," she said, her voice steady. Aisha smiled, her tone firm. "We knew you'd fix it," she said. The crowd cheered, their applause a testament to justice. The tension that had defined the cabin was gone, replaced by a sense of unity. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced with pride, their minds soaring. They knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define their future, a moment that affirmed their strength, their truth, their very identity. Back then, the business class cabin of Skylux Airlines Flight 217 was a whirlwind of activity at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson Airport, the jet still grounded on the tarmac, the soft glow of cabin lights casting a surreal atmosphere. The air filled with the murmur of passengers and the faint crackle of announcements over the intercom. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat in their seats, 2A and 2B, their identical faces a mix of relief and triumph. Their matching Navy travel outfits, cozy sweaters and jeans, now a symbol of their resilience. Their long braided hair neatly arranged, their deep brown eyes shining with a newfound sense of vindication, their hands resting calmly on their laps. Amara and Aisha were 15-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their dream of a luxurious flight to New York, a school reward for their academic excellence, had been marred by prejudice, but their father, Marcus Johnson, the CEO and founder of Skylux Airlines, had just intervened. The cabin, once a battleground of racial tension, was now a stage of justice. Marcus stood at the front of the cabin, his tailored suit a symbol of authority, his dark skin in commanding presence, a stark contrast to the prejudice that had unfolded. His deep brown eyes, identical to those of his daughters, scanning the passengers with a mix of resolve and disappointment. Skylux Airlines stands for excellence and inclusivity, he said, his voice steady and resonant. What happened here today is unacceptable, and I take full responsibility for ensuring it never happens again. The passengers listened in rapt silence, their whispers a mix of awe and respect. He's the real deal, a man in a suit murmured. Those girls are lucky to have him. Huya, his companion, replied. Marcus turned to Amar and Aisha, his expression softening. I'm so proud of you both, he said, his voice warm. You stood your ground. You showed strength, and I'm sorry you had to endure this. Amar's eyes glistened, her hands steady. Thank you, Dad, she said, her voice steady. Aisha smiled, her tone firm. We knew you'd make it right, she said. Marcus nodded, his voice firm. Always, he said, turning back to the passengers. Let me be clear. Skylux will not tolerate discrimination of any kind, from passengers or staff. The fallout from the incident was swift and decisive. Linda, the lead flight attendant who had sided with Karen Whitmore's prejudice, had already been escorted off the plane, her termination immediate. She's banned from ever working in this industry again, Marcus said, his tone sharp. We've already contacted the airline regulatory board. She's done, the passengers murmured, their voices a mix of shock and approval. Good riddance, a woman in a floral dress whispered. She was awful, her companion replied. Karen, the passenger who had initiated the conflict with British racist remarks, had also been removed. Her ban from Skylux Airlines permanent. She'll be blacklisted from all major airlines, Marcus said, his voice firm. We've shared her behavior with our partners. No one tolerates this. The crowd nodded, their applause a testament to the justice served. She got what she deserved. A man in a polo shirt said, Those girls didn't deserve that, his friend replied. Marcus wasn't finished. The entire flight crew is being replaced, he said. A new team is boarding now. They've been briefed on our zero-tolerance policy, and they'll ensure this flight proceeds with the respect and dignity every passenger deserves. The passengers cheered, their voices a wave of support. That's leadership, a woman in a silk scarf said. He's setting a standard, her companion replied. Within 20 minutes, a new flight crew boarded, their uniforms crisp, their smiles genuine. The lead attendant, a woman named Sarah with a warm demeanor, approached Amara and Aisha. I'm so sorry for what you went through, she said, her voice sincere. We're here to make this right. Skylux is upgrading your service to our platinum package, free of charge. Amara's heart lifted, her hand steady. Thank you, she said, her voice steady. Aisha smiled, her tone warm. We appreciate that, she said. The new crew went above and beyond, offering the twins personalized amenities, extra blankets, gourmet snacks, and priority service, ensuring their flight was the luxurious experience they dreamed of. The other passengers watched with admiration, their attitudes shifting. They're handling this so well, a man in a suit said. Those girls are amazing, his companion replied. Skylux Airlines issued a public statement the next day. Broadcast across news channels and social media, we deeply apologize for the incident on Flight 217, the statement read. Skylux is committed to inclusivity and has implemented mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff, effective immediately. The airline also launched a Fly with Dignity campaign, partnering with advocacy groups to promote diversity and equity in air travel. This is just the beginning, Marcus said in a press conference, his voice firm. We'll lead by example. The campaign gained national attention. Skylux is setting a new standard, a news anchor said. Thanks to those brave twins, her co-anchor replied. The incident had a ripple effect, other airlines following suit with their own diversity initiatives. Amara and Aisha sparked a movement, a journalist wrote. They showed the power of standing up. The twins watched the news from their hotel in New York, their hearts soaring. We did that, Amara said, her voice steady. Aisha nodded, her tone firm. And we're not done, she said. The tension that had once defined their flight was gone, replaced by a sense of unity and purpose. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced with pride, their minds soaring. They knew this was a turning point, a moment that would define their future, a moment that affirmed their strength, their truth, their very identity. They had faced prejudice, faced injustice, and now they stood tall, young women who belonged, not because they conformed, but because they had dared to fight. A moment of justice had arrived, a moment that would change everything, a moment that showed the world they were more than enough. The auditorium of the Willow Creek High School in Atlanta was a vibrant space on a crisp Saturday morning in early 2026, its stage adorned with a banner reading, "Youth Voices Matter." The air filled with the murmur of an eager audience and the faint scent of polished wood. Amara and Aisha Johnson stole backstage, their identical faces a mix of determination and poise, their matching navy blazers and white dresses a symbol of their unity, their long braided hair styled in elegant updos, their deep brown eyes shining with a newfound confidence, their hands clutching note cards for their speech. Amara and Aisha were now 16-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their shared experience on Skylux Airlines Flight 217, where they faced racial discrimination but stood their ground, had transformed them. The incident, where their father, Marcus Johnson, the CEO of Skylux Airlines, intervened to deliver justice, had not only secured their dignity, but had also ignited a fire within them. As they prepared to speak, the memory of that day fueled their resolve. "We're doing this for every kid who's ever been told they don't belong," Amara whispered, her voice steady. Aisha nodded, her tone firm. "Let's make them listen," she replied. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and community members, their voices a low hum of anticipation. The event was part of a youth advocacy series, and the twins had been invited as guest speakers, their story having spread far and wide after Skylux's public apology and the Fly with Dignity campaign. The host, a teacher named Ms. Carter, stepped to the microphone. "Please welcome Amara and Aisha Johnson," she said, her voice warm. Two young women who turned a moment of injustice into a movement for change. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers a wave of support. Amara and Aisha stepped onto the stage, their hearts racing, their hands steady as they approached the podium. "Thank you," Amara began, her voice clear. "We're here to share our story, not because it's unique, but because it's all too common." Aisha continued, her tone firm. "Last year, we were on a flight, business class, a reward for our hard work at school, but we were told we didn't belong there, not because of our tickets, but because of our skin." The crowd listened in rapt silence, their eyes locked on the twins. "A passenger and a flight attendant tried to remove us," Amara said. "They called us out of place, questioned our right to be there, but we stood our ground." Aisha's voice was steady. "And when we called our dad, who happens to be the CEO of Skylux Airlines, he made sure justice was served." The crowd cheered, their applause a testament to the twins' courage. "But this isn't just about us," Amara said. "It's about every person who's ever been judged for who they are, not what they do. We're here to say you belong, and you don't have to prove it to anyone." The auditorium erupted again, their cheers echoing through the space. "They're incredible." A student in a hoodie whispered, "They're so brave," her friend replied. The twins' speech marked a turning point in their lives. They had spent the past year grappling with the aftermath of the flight. The incident had left them shaken, but it had also awakened a fierce determination. "We can't let this happen to anyone else." Aisha had said one night, her tone firm. Amara had nodded. We have to speak up, she'd replied. Their father, Marcus, had supported their decision to become advocates. You've got a platform now, he'd said, his voice warm. Use it to make a difference. The twins had taken his words to heart, starting a blog, Twins for Change, where they shared their story and encouraged others to speak out against discrimination. Their posts gained traction. You're giving us a voice, a reader commented. Thank you for being so brave. Another wrote, Amara and Aisha's hearts soared with each message. Their dream of a world where everyone belonged now a tangible goal. Their advocacy extended beyond the blog. They began speaking at schools and community events, their story resonating with kids who had faced similar prejudice. You showed me I can stand up, a young girl named Maya told them after a talk, her voice soft. Amara smiled. You're stronger than you know, she replied, her tone steady. Aisha nodded. We're in this together, she added. Their influence grew. They partnered with local organizations to host workshops on combating racism. It starts with understanding, Aisha would say, her tone clear. We have to listen, learn, and act. Their workshops drew crowds. They're so young, but so wise, a teacher said, her voice warm. Amara and Aisha's confidence became a beacon. They joined their school's diversity council, advocating for more inclusive policies. Everyone deserves to feel safe, Amara said at a meeting, her tone firm. Their efforts led to new anti-bullying programs. You've changed our school, the principal said, his voice warm. Aisha smiled. We just wanted to help, she replied, her tone steady. The tension that had once defined their lives was gone, replaced by a sense of purpose. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced with pride, their minds soaring. They knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more battles to fight, but they were ready to face them with the strength they'd built, the strength that had carried them from a place of rejection to a position of inspiration. A moment of empowerment had arrived, a moment that would shape their future, a moment that affirmed their strength, their truth, their very identity. Yes, in the sleek conference room at Skylux Airlines headquarters in Atlanta was a hub of purpose on a sunny afternoon in June 2027, its glass walls reflecting the city skyline, the air filled with the soft hum of air conditioning and the murmur of focused collaboration. Amara and Aisha Johnson sat at the head of a long table, their identical faces a blend of determination and maturity, their matching navy blazers and white blouses a symbol of their unified mission. Their long braided hair styled in professional updos, their deep brown eyes alight with passion, their hands holding folders filled with proposals and data. Amara and Aisha were now 17-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their journey from facing racial discrimination on a Skylux flight to becoming advocates for change had transformed them into powerful voices for equity. As they prepared to present their latest initiative, the memory of their flight where their father, Marcus Johnson, the CEO of Skylux, had intervened to deliver justice, fueled their resolve. We're doing this for everyone who's ever felt out of place, Amara said, her voice steady. Aisha nodded, her tone firm. Let's make sure no one else goes through what we did, she replied. The room was filled with Skylux executives, diversity consultants, and community leaders. Their voices a low hum of anticipation. Marcus Johnson sat at the table, his tailored suit a symbol of authority, his deep brown eyes, identical to those of his daughters, shining with pride. I'm honored to introduce our guest speakers, he said, his voice warm. My daughters, Amara and Aisha Johnson, who have partnered with Skylux to advance our Fly with Dignity campaign. The room erupted into applause, their cheers a testament to the twins' growing influence. Amara and Aisha stood, their hearts racing, their hands steady as they approached the podium. Thank you, Amara began, her voice clear. We're here to present our latest initiative, a comprehensive diversity and inclusion program for Skylux Airlines. Aisha continued, her tone firm. We've worked with experts to develop training modules, passenger education campaigns, and a mentorship program for underrepresented youth in aviation. The executives listened intently, their eyes locked on the twins. Our goal, Ishan Amara said, is to ensure that every passenger and employee feels valued, respected, and safe, no matter who they are. The room nodded, their applause a testament to the twins' vision. They're incredible, a consultant whispered. They're changing the game, her colleague replied. The twins' presentation marked a turning point in their advocacy. They had spent the past year building on their platform. Twins for Change, their blog now a viral sensation with thousands of followers. You've given me courage, a reader commented. I'm not afraid to speak up anymore. Another wrote, Amara and Aisha's hearts soared with each message. Their dream of a more inclusive world, now a tangible mission. Their advocacy extended beyond the blog. They had continued speaking at schools and community events, their story resonating with people of all ages. You showed me I can fight back, a young boy named Malik told him after a talk, his voice soft. Aisha smiled. You're stronger than you think, she replied, her tone steady. Amara nodded. We're in this together, she added. Their influence grew. They partnered with national organizations to host webinars on combating racism. It starts with education, Amara would say, her tone clear. We have to teach, listen, and act. Their webinars drew thousands. They're so young, but so impactful, an organizer said, her voice warm. Amara and Aisha's confidence became a catalyst. They expanded their reach by launching a podcast, Voices for Equity, where they interviewed activists, educators, and peers. Your story matters, Aisha told a guest, her tone firm. Their episodes topped charts. They're inspiring a generation. A listener wrote, they're unstoppable. Another added, the twins also work closely with Skylux, their father's airline, to implement their vision. The Fly with Dignity campaign had already made waves, but the twins pushed for more. We want Skylux to be a leader in equity, Amara said during a meeting, her tone firm. Their new program included mandatory anti-bias training for all employees, a passenger code of conduct, and scholarships for underrepresented youth in aviation. This is about systemic change, Aisha said, her voice clear. We're building a future where everyone belongs. The executives applauded. This is groundbreaking, a board member said, his voice warm. Marcus smiled. My daughters are the future. Well, he said, his tone proud. The twins' efforts had a ripple effect. Other airlines adopting similar programs. Skylux is setting the standard. A news headline read, Thanks to Amara and Aisha, the article noted. The twins watched the coverage from their school library, their hearts soaring. We're making a difference, Aisha said, her voice steady. Amara nodded, her tone firm. And we're just getting started, which she replied. Their school had also changed. Their advocacy inspiring a new diversity curriculum. You've made our campus better, the principal said, his voice warm. Aisha smiled. We just wanted to help, she replied, her tone steady. The tension that had once defined their lives was gone, replaced by a sense of purpose. Amara and Aisha's hearts raced with pride, their minds soaring. They knew this was just the beginning, that there would be more challenges, more battles to fight, but they were ready to face them with the strength they'd built, the strength that had carried them from a place of rejection to a position of leadership. A moment of impact had arrived, a moment that would shape their future, a moment that affirmed their strength, their truth, their very identity. Within the grand stage of the Global Youth Summit in London was a beacon of inspiration on a crisp evening in September 2030, its sleek platform illuminated by vibrant spotlights, the air filled with the electric buzz of an international audience and the faint scent of anticipation. Amara and Aisha Johnson stood at the center of the stage, their identical faces radiating a powerful blend of wisdom and grace, their elegant navy gowns shimmering under the lights, their long braided hair styled in intricate updos, their deep brown eyes glowing with a fierce determination, their hands holding a shared award for Youth Advocates of the Decade. Amara and Aisha were now 20-year-old twin sisters of African descent, their height a modest 5 feet 4 inches, their slender builds a reflection of their active lives. Their journey from facing racial discrimination on a Skylux Airlines flight to becoming global icons for equity had transformed them into celebrated activists. The crowd waited eagerly, their applause a thunderous welcome as the summit host introduced them. "Please welcome Amara and Aisha Johnson," she said, her voice warm. "Two extraordinary young women who have redefined advocacy and inspired a generation." The audience stood, their cheers echoing through the venue. Amara and Aisha stepped forward, their hearts racing, their hands steady as they approached the microphone. "Thank you," Amara began, her voice clear and resonant. "We're honored to be here, but this isn't about us. It's about the millions of voices who've been silenced, who've been told they don't belong." Aisha continued, her tone firm. 5 years ago, we were on a flight, business class, a place we'd earned, but we were told we didn't belong there, not because of our actions, but because of our skin." The crowd listened in rapt silence, their eyes locked on the twins. "We stood up," Amara said, "and with our father's support, Marcus Johnson, the CEO of Skylux Airlines, we turned that moment of injustice into a movement for change." The audience erupted, their applause a testament to the twins' impact. "Today," Aisha said, "we're here to tell you that belonging isn't about fitting in, it's about standing up, about lifting others, about fighting for a world where everyone can soar." The summit hall roared, their cheers a wave of support. "They're incredible," a delegate from Brazil whispered. "They're unstoppable," her colleague replied. The twins' speech marked the pinnacle of their journey. They had spent the past 5 years building on their platform. Twins for Change, their blog now a global phenomenon with millions of followers. "You've changed my life," a reader commented. "I'm not afraid to be me anymore." Another wrote, "Amara and Aisha's hearts soared with each message. Their dream of a more inclusive world, now a tangible reality. Their advocacy had grown exponentially, their podcast, Voices for Equity, had become a top-rated show, featuring interviews with world leaders, activists, and youth. "Your story matters," Aisha told a guest, her tone firm. "Their episodes inspired millions." "They're leading a revolution," a listener wrote. "They're the future," another added. The twins had also expanded their work with Skylux Airlines, their Fly with Dignity campaign evolving into a global standard. They had launched an international initiative, Skylux Scholars, providing scholarships for underrepresented youth in aviation. "We want to see more faces like ours in this industry," Amara said at a launch event, her tone clear. The program had supported thousands. "You gave me wings," a scholar named Malik told them, his voice soft. Aisha smiled. "You earned them." She replied, her tone steady. Amara nodded. "We're just opening the door," she added. Their influence reached far beyond aviation. They founded a nonprofit, Equity in Motion, to combat systemic racism worldwide. "It starts with action," Aisha said at a UN conference, her voice firm. Their organization funded education programs, anti-bias training, and community projects. "They're changing the world," a UN delegate said, her voice warm. Amara and Aisha's confidence became a global force. They authored a best-selling book, Belonging: Our Journey to Change the World, sharing their story and strategies for advocacy. "You've given us a blueprint," a reader wrote. "Thank you for leading the way," another added. The twins traveled the world, speaking at summits, schools, and rallies. "We were told we didn't belong," Amara said at a rally in Paris, her voice steady. "But we learned that belonging is about creating space for everyone, no matter the odds." The crowd roared, their applause a testament to their legacy. Back at the summit, the twins accepted their award, their hearts full. "This isn't the end," Aisha said, her voice clear. "It's a beginning. We'll keep fighting until every child knows they belong." The audience stood again, their cheers a wave of love. "They're phenomenal," a delegate from Kenya said. "They're the future," her colleague replied. The twins stepped off the stage, their family waiting in the wings. Marcus Johnson approached, his eyes shining. "I'm so proud of you," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Amara smiled. "Thank you, Dad," she said, her tone steady. Aisha nodded. "We couldn't have done it without you," she added. Their mother joined them, her arms wrapping around them. "My brave girls," she whispered, her voice warm. Amara and Aisha had turned their pain into purpose, their story into a movement. And in doing so, they had shown the world that they belonged, that they mattered, that they could inspire. Years later, they stood at the forefront of a global equity summit, a different crowd, a different city, but the same message. "We were told we didn't belong," Amara said, her voice steady. "But we learned that belonging is about creating your own path, about lifting others up, about fighting with heart, no matter the odds." The audience cheered, their applause a testament to their legacy. Aisha smiled, her heart full. She knew this was their destiny, that there would be more challenges, more battles to fight, but they were ready to face them with the strength they'd forged, the strength that had carried them from a flight of rejection to a world of change. A moment of fulfillment had arrived, a moment that would shape their future, a moment that affirmed their strength, their truth, their very identity. Amara and Aisha turned a racist ordeal into a global movement for equity. Thanks for watching. If their journey empowered you, smash that like, share with others, and subscribe with the bell on for more stories of bravery and change.